Welcome back to the AgriSpec Tom channel. Today we are looking at ground which has been in maize and will be going back into maize this year, and we're assessing its readiness for the next crop. Let's get into the video.
Right, just arrived at the field, got my spade as well, and we're going to just take a little hop over the gate and have a look. The field that we're standing in today was in maize, I should say, and when I joined KWS, this farmer called me to ask for some help choosing maize because he was feeling that what he had before was getting off a bit too late. So we had a little bit of a chat, walked the ground a little bit, and we worked out that actually what he had was just a bit too late for when he could get a drill into the ground and when he wanted to get that maize off. So we opted for an earlier maturing variety, and we got the result we wanted. We got this maize off in September. So the ground, as you can see, is actually looking quite good for maize ground. You know, there's no deep ruts from where the harvester has got stuck, or the forager has got stuck, I should say, or where the tractors got stuck. It's all nice and even and nice. However, the only thing I would say is that we didn't get an overwinter cover in. And actually, I would advise that, because leaving ground exposed like this is just not the best practice, and you want to protect your soil structure, you want to protect your soils over winter, and putting in a cover is one of the best ways you can deal with that. So that is going to be something that I talked to him about this coming maize season. I didn't really get an opportunity to really kind of discuss it. He was just very happy that the right maturity was picked for the site, got it off in time, got it off very early, in fact, compared to what he was used to. We got it off in the third week of September. It was ready in the second week of September, really, and he normally expects maize to be ready at the back end of October. And despite how bad the season was, it matured very nicely and was in a position where it could be got off. So the crop was very good, and it was yielding very well too. But the one thing that we didn't expect was for this field to start to get hit by corn borer. It's not something that we see too much in the west, but this year we saw quite a bit of it. And this field, along with a couple of other fields he's got, were hit actually quite hard. As much as 1 in 10 were taken. And we haven't been able to do too much about the corn borer. Normally what I would suggest that you do with corn borer is knock over the stubble and absolutely destroy it, or incorporate it as soon as possible. But unfortunately, the stubble has been left like so. And the thing is, corn borer will overwinter in these maize stubbles, and the population will only just grow from there. And for anyone who's experienced corn borer, you'll understand that there are no active ingredients on the marketplace or chemistry, sprays for those who don't know what I'm talking about, which can be used to kill off corn borer. You've got to use cultural management practices, so things like destroying stubble, incorporating stubble quite extensively. So when I mean incorporating, I mean either ploughing it or tilling it into the ground to rip up that stubble a bit or start to attack that population. I should say there is active ingredients in the marketplace for sweet corn, not maize. But the problem is with that active ingredient, it's very expensive to apply per hectare. So for maize, where it is right now, you know, despite the fact we don't even have it in any trials at the moment, it's not something which is going to be financially viable, at least in the near future. So we're restricted to cultural management of corn borer. And given the fact that so far this year we've had quite a mild winter as well, you know, we haven't had a hard frost or any snow, at least in this part of the world. I'm in Wiltshire right now. I think that population is just going to grow and grow. Normally it's over in the east side of the country, you know, things like Kent and over in Cambridgeshire and that sort of area, but that population has moved, and given the fact that we're having more mild weather, especially over the winter, that population is just going to increase and continue moving. So I think it's going to have to be something that we look at managing rotationally and also culturally with the way we manage maize. So it's going to be a challenge, and this season I think we're going to learn a good few lessons. But one of the things that we're starting to think about now, looking forward to the year ahead, is what are we going to do as far as cultivation strategies to establish the next maize crop that's going in here, because this is just being fed to cows. There is nothing else that's being fed here. This is not part of a long-term arable rotation. This is just for feeding cattle. So the first thing we really want to be thinking about is the soil, what we need to do to get into the right preparation and put the right steps in place in order to get maize out of the ground and going well, because maize is a lazy rooter and does not like a hard seed bed. You really need to develop quite a soft seed bed. So I'm just going to dig a quick soil pit and have a little look at what we're talking about. What we're looking at here is a silty clay loam, and this soil pit, given the fact that this has been exposed ground, receiving a heavy amount of rainfall over the past few months, the structure isn't looking too awful. It's a little bit claggy and a little bit tight, but that's kind of what I'd expect from an exposed soil over winter. There's plenty of earthworms in there, and it's breaking apart quite nicely into structure. So I would class this as a moderate soil in the condition it's in. It does need to dry out a bit. Not being funny, but it could also do with a bit of a frost as well, really. But overall, this isn't looking too bad. As I say, it's a moderate soil. It smells quite good as well, really, given the fact it's, as you can see, I mean, that's very wet. But there are plenty of earthworms in here. It's breaking apart easily. There are a variety of small and large aggregates, so I'm reasonably happy with that. And this is a lot down to the fact that the condition of this soil being as good as it is, despite being left exposed over winter, is down to the fact that this ground did not take a hell of a battering when the maize came off. This was done at the right time and gave soil a chance to rest. Because last year when we were looking at this soil, the same ground, which had months of heavy rain behind it, was looking terrible because it was taken off so late. So in just a year you can see, or I can see at least, that this soil is already starting to look better than what it was before. But plenty of good work we can still do. With an overwinter cover, I would expect this soil to be much better next year, so hopefully we can get that in place. While we've still got light, let's dig one more soil pit to just have a little look. I've already dug two, but let's dig one more just to have a look and see what another part of the field is looking like. Now, last year, this was a particularly wet part of the field and was sitting underwater for a fair bit of time. The maize here was quite patchy initially, and then it came back after we went through quite a dry spell from June. So this ground has sat wet actually a lot longer than a lot of other ground around here has. And overall, this soil pit, let me show you, you can see actually it's no real different to the one that we saw earlier. It's a bit stickier, it's a fair bit wetter, but overall the structure is a moderate, similar to what was over there. And there are plenty of earthworms in here. I mean, look at the size of him. Absolute monster. And this ground is, I mean, the lower you go into the soil pit, yes, it's getting a bit tighter, but it's still breaking apart nicely. Plenty of large and small aggregates in there. So despite being very wet, there's still plenty of air in the soil. There's still plenty of structure. And, you know, given the fact that there's plenty of earthworm activity in here, and the fact that also this soil is smelling nice as well, it's not looking bad at all. So this soil could be looking a damn sight worse than what it is, given the season we've had and given how wet it is. I mean, it's still sitting wet now. There are plenty of wet patches in this field. It's one of the worst I see in my local area. But despite that, this ground is not looking bad at all. And the indices, the soil indices of this ground are, I think P's are 3, Ks are 2, I think. 2 minus. Yeah, I think it's a 2 minus. So they're pretty much bang on where they need to be. Nothing is too bad here. Nothing's too heavy. Unlike a lot of livestock ground that you'll see where there are indices like minimum 4s going up into the 5s in some areas. But yeah, this ground I'm quite happy with. While I'm cleaning the clay off my boots, you guys could do me a favour, and that is to like this video, share it with your friends, and also subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate that. Thank you very much. The light's going now, so we're not going to get a chance to go and see another field today. We'll have to leave that for another day. But for now, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.